Runsmith Enterprises presents episode 19 of Topics in Endurance Sports. I'm your host, Tim. Today is Wednesday, October 10th, 2018. Yes, this is my first full podcast or episode since May. Let's see, May, June, July, August, September. 4 or 5 months ago. So it's been a while since I've done an episode. Although I did do the dog days of podcasting in August. I did an episode every single day. But they were a little short episodes. So this is the first full episode in a while. So what's today's topic? Today is, I'm going to call it Summer Fun 2018. Or maybe I could call it What I Did This Summer. Or my Summer Diary. You can find out more about me at my website at runsmith.net. And you can find my email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter information there, and also my coaching services. Please check out my running coaching services. If you do need to email me, or want to email me, I should say, it's chemsmith1@gmail.com. Like the beginning of the word chemistry, C-H-E-M, Smith, and the number 1, chemsmith1@gmail.com. Please email me with anything you like. A little bit about from previous episodes. Back in episode 17, 2 episodes ago, which is probably like in April or something, I reviewed the Hawkeye 50K and the a trail marathon in Louisville that I did. And I just made a tiny mistake, not important, but at the Hawkeye 50K, which is in Iowa, I wore Skechers. The Go Trail Ultra or something like that. I did not wear Speed Goats. I said that I wore Speed Goats. I've been going back and forth somewhat between the Hoka Speed Goats and Skechers. And by the way, I just happened to buy a brand new pair of Skechers trail shoes. These are a new version that Skechers just came out with. It's called, looking for the box. I mean, I literally just got these. The tag is still on these. They're called the Skechers Max Trail 5 Ultra. It's funny that it's Max Trail 5 because I never had Max Trail before this. So it's really the first. And these are more beefed up than their Go Trail Ultra or whatever. So it's a little more beefed up version. And the lugs, the bottom of them are a little more grippy and I think they have that special Vibram sole or something. I don't know. They got bigger lugs on them, I should say, and hopefully more grippy. They got a little more cushioning. Got some other features, but the tag is still on these. I'll probably try them out tomorrow for the first time. They just came in the mail yesterday. So I'll be giving these a try. And I may be using them soon if I like how they work. I have a race coming in 10 days, so I may use them there if they feel good. Also, back in episode 17, the same episode, at the Louisville Trail Marathon that I did, I talked to a guy named Will Rivera, and I talked to him, and in talking to him, he told me about running UROC, the Ultra Race of Champions, 100K, and then in episode 18, I ran UROC. So I talked to Will in episode 17. Just by chance, I talked to him because he was at the trail race I did, and we talked about UROC. The next episode, I did UROC and ran it. And also, Will was also on the Southeastern Trail Runner podcast. I recommend that podcast, especially if you're kind of in the Kentucky. They're out of Kentucky. So if you're anywhere near Kentucky, check that trail podcast out, Southeastern Trail Runner podcast, and they interviewed him as well. I might just mention that Will just finished Spartathlon in Greece. He came in 15th overall, which is amazing. I think he was the top American. So the guy is an elite runner, very, very good runner. Like I said, it was by chance that I talked to him. We were just sitting around at the end of the race, and I just turned my mic on, talking to people, and he was one of them sitting there. I didn't even know who he was, which is really kind of embarrassing. I had no idea who he was. And I was going to give kudos to a bunch of my other friends, but I have so many who have accomplished so much that I don't want to even name them because I'll leave people out. So some of these are people I've interviewed before as well. My friend Lori finished Western States. Great job, Lori. But I've got like 9 others, or 20 others who have done things. I kind of want to give shout outs. Maybe I should just start keeping a list of all my friends who do cool things and just do a 3-minute shout out to all my friends who do cool stuff all the time, because they're doing amazing things. And by friends, I mean, some are just Facebook friends really, but still I feel like they're my friends. I did want to mention this. Speaking of people sending me emails, I got one from John Sloan of Brighton, Michigan. And it reads like this. Tim, thank you for posting your Race Report podcast about Run Woodstock. I ran it last week and was grateful for the tips you provided in the podcast about the 100 mile. I really appreciate it. So thanks, John. Run Woodstock is a race in Michigan, where he's from Michigan, and they have a whole bunch of distances. And I ran the Hallucination 100 last year, almost a year ago. It's in September, so like 13 months ago, I ran it and did an episode about it, and John listened to it and evidently liked it, and he ran it and he did finish. So great job, John, on your finish. And that's the type of thing. If you send me an email, I'll read it on the show. So feel free to send them. Okay, let's get to today's topics. Summer Fun 2018. So this is a little bit different. Most of my shows have been me running an ultra, and then I review the race, as well as saying how I did, how it went for me. And, but the name of the show is Topics in Endurance Sports. I didn't really mean for it to be nothing but race reviews of ultra marathons. It's just that's what I do the most. And I only have so much time for this. And so that's what a lot of the shows have been about. I do have other ideas for other topics that aren't races, nutrition. Or one time I did do one show that was a book review. Actually, 2 shows that were book reviews. So 2 of my shows have been book reviews. So I have all these other ideas. I just have troubles fitting them in. And if you're wondering why I haven't done a show since May, I've just been super busy. You would think summer wouldn't be that busy, but it was. And in the last few months, I've been coaching cross country, high school cross country, and that takes up, it manages to take up a lot of time. This Saturday is the very end of that. So I'm going to have a little more time after this Saturday to do more shows. But I just have been really busy. So in the summer, what I normally do is all types of other races besides ultra marathons. I actually don't run very much in the summer. This probably is the opposite of a lot of people, but I start picking up the running in the fall and run a lot in the winter and the spring. Because the other things I do, you can't really do in the winter. I like to bike, and I'm not the type, I don't have a fat tire bike. I don't want to be out biking on ice and snow and in the cold in the winter. I just don't like doing that. I don't mind running in the cold. I don't care how cold it is. I don't mind running in it. I'll go run in the woods, and it's a little warmer in there because the wind can't get through the trees as easily. But I don't want to bike out in the freezing cold. So I do a lot more running in the summer. Triathlons I do, but obviously I'm not doing those. I do a lot more running in the winter. Obviously I'm not doing triathlons in the winter. So in the summer, that's what I do. I do these more triathlons, more biking and stuff like that. And I just mix it up. I don't run long. I give my legs a break from a lot of really long runs. So I'm just going to review a little summer diary. Like I said, just review what I did this summer. May or may not be too exciting. I don't know, but maybe it'll give you some ideas of, ideas for mixing things up, or just give you the incentive to mix things up, because I really like it. And I think a lot of ultra runners, they do nothing but ultra running, which is absolutely 100% great, but maybe you don't even think anymore to throw in something else. And so maybe this will give you some ideas. So let's start off way back on June 2nd. So that is July, August, September, October, over 4 months ago. That's how far back this goes. On June 2nd, I did a 5K, which is a blast. You people never doing 5Ks are missing out. And this is actually kind of a trail 5K. It was at the fairgrounds in Iowa City, Iowa. I'm from Iowa. My daughter lives in Iowa City, so I'm there all the time. And so I did this 5K trail race called the Mennonite Relief Sale. So Mennonites are kind of like the Amish. We have a lot of them in Iowa. And they put on this, and they also had like a sale with it too, like used books and all types of stuff they were selling to raise money. I'm sorry, I forget exactly what they were raising money for. I should know, but I don't. But my daughter and I ran this together, so that's what made it fun. It was a very small race. It was like, I don't know, 45 people in it or something. No, I don't know how many. Maybe not even that many. 30 people in it or something. It wasn't advertised a whole lot. I just happened to see it. What was interesting about this is even though it was a 5K, it was super hilly. You have to see the fairgrounds there, but there's like this gigantic hill. By gigantic, I don't mean Colorado, I mean for Iowa. But it's like a couple straight up hills right behind the fairgrounds. And we ran those hills. So we ran up this hill. So most of it was on grass or these trails. I got a blue shirt with it. Let's see, a blue cotton shirt. Iowa Mennonite Relief Sale shirt we got for doing the race. And when I was done, my watch said it was only 2.94 miles, which could have been true. Obviously, this wasn't super measured or anything. One guy was just running, organizing the whole thing. I got 300 feet up and 300 feet down, which is quite a bit in 3 miles. That would be, for example, a marathon with about 2,700 feet of up and down. That would be considered a very hilly marathon. Not really hilly for an ultra marathon, I understand. But for a 5K, that's pretty hilly. It took me 25 minutes and 58 seconds. I was first of 4 males in the 45 and above division. They only had a few divisions. So 45 and above, I was number 1. Yay! And my daughter was first of 4 females in the 16 to 25 division. Her time was 29:55. We got, I forget exactly what we got. We got like a gift certificate to the local running store, We Run. Hello, We Run. We Run is in North Liberty, and we got a gift certificate to We Run. My friends try to say that. My friends run, We Run. Brian and Chris. Hello, Brian and Chris. So that's what we got for winning our age group, which was cool. The winner of the race was Marty Gingerich. He was 55. He won the race in 22:04. He also organized it. So he organized it, and he was fast. I mean, he beat me by over 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes. The guy was flying. He took off and was gone pretty quick. The female winner was Erin Hayward in 25:51, just 4 seconds ahead of me. So close. But it was a fun race, really a blast. What was fun about it is in ultra marathons, I walk all the hills. I would never have run these hills. So it's fun to do a race where you run as hard as you can up a steep hill. And so again, twice we had to run up a hill, 2 different hills. And so there's a reason to do something like that. You get a chance to actually just go all out up a hill. You never do that in an ultra, at least if you're an average bloke like me, you probably don't do that very much. The next race I did was the Quad Cities Triathlon. That was Saturday, June 16th, 2 weeks after the 5K. And this was also in Iowa. This was in Davenport, Iowa, where I grew up, right along the Mississippi. And I was at a place called West Lake. This is where I did the very first triathlon I ever did, way back in 2007, 11 years ago. And I've done this probably about 4 times now. And it just seemed time to go back and do it again. I love the race. It's really well run. Eric Sarno is the race director and always has been, does a great job with it. It's a beautiful first triathlon. Hilly bike. You go up and down a few hills, and the run is not completely flat, but I would still say it's a great beginner triathlon. The lake is always very still. So it's a 600-yard swim in the lake, then a 15-mile bike, so you're not biking that long, and a 5K run. It was extremely hot. We started at 7:30 a.m. or something, and it was already high 70s. So it got into the 80s during the race, and it was humid. So it was a hot race. The water was 80 degrees, which meant you could not wear a wetsuit. So in triathlon, if the water is hot enough, they don't allow a wetsuit. Actually, you could wear one, but you would not be allowed in the results. And not that I care, because I know my name's I'm not gonna be any good anyway. But when that happens, I don't wear wetsuits. So it's got to be below 78 before wetsuits are allowed for everyone. And you can wear one and still win your age group. Boy, I'm having troubles with the W's and R's. You can wear one and still win your age group. But this one, no wetsuits allowed. And everyone who did wear a wetsuit, they had to stand at the very back of the swim line. So the swim, what they did was they had two people go off like every 5 seconds. Your chip timed, so it doesn't matter. But all the people in wetsuits had to go last, and they were not going to count in the results. Anyway, it went well. I had fun. Like I said, the lake was smooth. I was slow in my swim. I just have not been swimming as much. I am really a lazy triathlon swimmer. My general thing I do is on Mondays and Fridays, I go swim a half mile. That's pathetic. Really, really pathetic. It's only about 20 minutes, and that's my general training most of the year. And honestly, I do that because there's a hot tub right next to it, and I like to sit in the hot tub. Now, I do ramp things up in the spring. I start swimming longer, still only twice a week, but I'll push that up to a mile or a mile and a half or something, depending on what I think I'm going to do that summer, triathlon-wise. But if I swim twice a week, a half mile each time, I can always do a sprint triathlon, which is what this is. But I was kind of slow. On the bike, it was, like I said, it was hilly, but I felt okay. I didn't have any troubles. If I go too hard on that, I could cramp up, but that didn't happen. The run is kind of fun. You actually start running on grass, kind of on a hill, and then you run over this gravel, looks like an old dam or something, and then you run on a road for a while, and actually finish by running the last mile and a half or so, or 2 miles on road into the finish. But I felt pretty good on the run, which is always the thing. In a triathlon, it comes down to how will you end up feeling on the run. Because if you kill yourself on the bike, obviously you might destroy your run. And that happens to me sometimes because I don't bike enough either. I don't start biking until the spring. And so my bike is always lagging. My run is always well trained, but it doesn't matter how good your run is if you ruin your legs biking. But I did okay. I paced myself pretty well. My swim took 16 minutes and 48 seconds, which is 2 minutes and 48 per 100 yards. Friends, that is beyond slow. Get this. There were 22 people in my age group. I was dead last in the swim. Dead last in the swim in my age group. So they will tell you how you place in your age group. It took me 3 minutes and 20 seconds to transition to the bike. And the bike, it took me 55 minutes and 34 seconds, which is 16.2 miles per hour. In my age group of 22, I was 19th. Yeah, I'm looking great, right? So far, I'm pretty much in last place. The second transition to the run took me 1 minute and 25 seconds. The run took me 25:57, which sounds slow for a 5K for many of you, right? But keep in mind, you just got done biking. I was 6th, though, in my age group, 6th of 22. That tells you I'm a runner right there. So I do last in the swim, almost last in the bike, but in the top quarter, almost in the run, which is, sometimes I'll do bad in the run. Again, if I bike too hard, I'll ruin my run. So it's not a given that I'm always going to do well in the run just because I'm a runner. But in this case, I did well, 6th in my age group. So overall, I was 143.04. I was 13th of 22 in my age group. So in the end, I was in the middle. Hey, that's not bad, folks. 13 of 22. 162 of 238 males. 162 of 238, kind of in the bottom quarter. 222 of 397 overall, counting the women. So almost in the middle if you count everybody. But I really enjoy triathlons. And to go for 1 hour and 43 minutes, split up over 3 disciplines, you're going pretty hard the whole way, right? Because you can do the swim pretty much as hard as you want because it's mainly upper body. The bike, you have to pace yourself a little bit, but you're only out there for an hour. And then the run, you can go as hard as you can to get to the finish. I really, really love triathlons. They're so fun to do. By the way, overall in the swim, I was 355 of 397. So I did beat some people, but not a whole lot. In the run, I was 95 of 397, so on the top quarter in the run. Okay, anyway, the winners for that race were Josh Madsen, 105.52. So he beat me by 40 minutes, 105.52. And Joanna Hall, 115.19. Joanna Hall is a name I know. She must be from the area. I have seen her name before. Also, my friend Bonnie Bush did this, and I got a little interview. Bonnie Bush lives in the area, so let's listen to what I talked about with Bonnie Bush. Okay, I'm with my friend Bonnie, who did the Quad Cities Triathlon. How did your day go today?
I think it went okay. I'll look at the results when I get home. I don't... You just got the job done, and that's fine.
There were no disasters of any sort?
No, that's the thing you want to avoid. Avoid the medical tent.
Yes.
It's hot today. Enjoy the breeze. Enjoy your friends, and hope things work out.
Do you have any idea how many Quad City Triathlons you've done?
Every one since 2005. So you do the
about
math.
13 or 14, depending on how you look at it. Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of guys who've done all 19, or a couple of people.
Yes, Anne and her friend.
That's impressive.
Fred.
19.
Yeah.
So after doing so many of these, or just triathlons in general, do you still have, especially this one, you've done this so many times, do you still come in anxious about anything?
I do. We were here last night, and I was out with a friend of mine this was her second time now. And it was funny because some of the things she was talking over in her head or saying out loud last night actually went through my mind this morning. And I thought, you know what? These are smart things to...
Like, is it logistical things or...
Logistical stuff.
Like the flat tire type stuff?
Well, or the swim. You know, you kind of got to get your head set before you get in the water. And it used to be, I would always try to swim wide and avoid everybody. And then I'm thinking, as I looked out, you know, and the people in front of me, they had this nice little space. And I thought, well, why would I want to swim so wide? I can swim right straight if I can. I'll try to do that today. That'll be a good idea.
Did you get beat up very much in the swim?
Not at all.
Really?
Nobody around me.
I got kicked around pretty good.
Oh, gosh. No, see, I was avoiding people, but I started way in the back. We started just before the wetsuits.
Oh, okay.
I know.
About 3/4 the way back. So.
It's a different atmosphere back there. My friends were uncomfortable, so we said, let's just start in the back. And they said, okay, let's do that. And we're good with that. So I'm good with that, and that's fine. It's all good.
Let's see what else.
But on the run, I mean, the bike, you have to kind of work with the wind as much as you can, or work against it. But the run, I kept thinking, you got to relax. You got to really settle in here because it's going to get hot, and you know the wind's going to be at our back. We knew that, so it's like, ugh.
Do you ever have cramping issues in triathlons?
You know, we were just talking about that. I had a friend that had cramps today, and I'm like, ugh.
That's my big thing, but I managed not to cramp today.
Trying to manage around.
But I've actually cramped in this triathlon.
Oh.
Yeah, I've cramped like coming up. I think it was right after the swim, and I sat down at the bucket, and my abs cramped.
Oh.
And so I'm sitting trying to get like my shoes on, but then I have to stand up and stretch my abs.
Because it's like, oh, I can't.
And that's an extremely painful cramp.
Well, and you know what? So credit to these guys. They had ice available on the course. They were talking to people. And at least for where I was at, I didn't see anything that was getting ugly. You know, everybody seemed to be managing themselves well. And it was okay to walk. I mean, it is. It is okay.
They have this race down.
Oh my gosh, when you see the logistics they have to go through, like when they tear it down now, this will be interesting just to watch them tear it down.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. What are a couple of last races you've done, triathlon or not?
Ooh, I haven't done anything this year now at all.
Really?
Until this one, yeah.
Why is that?
I've just been traveling and doing other stuff, so. Came out of winter kind of late because we were doing some winter stuff, and then just kind of...
Oh, you did Arrowhead, though. Didn't you do Arrowhead?
I did Arrowhead.
You finished it.
Was
that your first finish?
No, it was my second one.
Second finish. Out of how many tries?
Oh, I have 3 DNFs, so I got to make up for each one of those darn things.
But I heard that there was at least one evening that was extremely cold this year.
You know what? I did 3 winter races this year, and the temperature was the same for every one of them. Probably
kind of good.
minus 35.
I guess at least we're used to it.
Yeah, and that was kind of interesting. And we didn't expect that. We expected Arrowhead to be a little... Actually, Arrowhead, the forecast going in was supposed to be warm.
Oh.
And so everybody was leaving stuff behind at home. They didn't bring stuff, and then it changed at the last minute. It was... I think it caught a few people by surprise.
When it's minus 35, is it windy at all? Because that to me would be a big difference.
It can be. It can be. And it was for us that night. Actually, they got 3 inches of snow, I think, on the course. It was.
I don't know how you can move it. I don't know how you existed out there at minus 35. I don't know how you guys do it.
You know what? I had great company. It's one of those things where you just kind of hope things work out, and it really did. So I feel really lucky that I had nice people around me that had their head on, and they were fun to be with. And
I would literally be afraid of frostbite, for real, losing toes, fingers,
yes,
noses.
And those are all things you need to think about and be concerned about when you're out there too. So
yeah.
Little stuff.
That's crazy. Anything coming up on your schedule?
No, I've got some injuries I need to work on. I know that.
You had a shoulder thing in a year or two, right?
Yeah, but that's not a problem anymore. Yeah, I've got a different issue that I just can't seem to get over, and I've been skipping races now because of it.
Yeah, it's not a knee, is it?
No, it's not a knee.
I have a knee thing going on.
It gets expensive at this rate, though, so I got to figure that out. But.
So you got another no more triathlons this summer? No Ironman?
No, I'll do, I've got a half Ironman my friends talked me into.
Which one?
Door County.
Oh,
I've not been up there, so...
I've not done that one either.
I'll go check that out, and then I'm going to do, hopefully, Ironman Madison again, so...
Very nice.
Wisconsin, I like that
You've done that a few times, right?
I've done there quite a bit.
Good race?
I like it.
So, in the fall, winter, you think you want to go back to Arrowhead again?
I do. I hate to say it this early, but I really would like to. Yeah, fun. I mean...
You want to get back? You want to get to 50%? Is that the idea?
I got those
3 out of 6?
big mittens now. I know.
Gotta use them.
I'm comfortable with. Yep. That makes all the difference. Good gear, and that's just like triathlons. Decent equipment and all that. So.
All right. Well, nice talking to you. Nice seeing you.
Nice talking to you, Tim. Good
Thank
to
you
see
very much.
you.
Bye bye. All right. Sorry, I'm messing around here. Where am I? Here we go. All right. Anyway, thank you very much, Bonnie. You'll notice how modest she is. Oh, I haven't done anything. I just did Arrowhead 135, one of the hardest races in the world. That was this year. I bet she did something else between then and the Quad Cities Triathlon as well. And she also well, what do you have going on? Oh, nothing. And then she lists 2 triathlons she's doing. So she did finish Ironman Wisconsin. She's done that a number of times. In the Quad Cities, she's a legend. She really is. She's a legend. She's been around a while. The Quad Cities, by the way, are 2 cities in Iowa and Illinois that straddle the Mississippi. And all their other little towns, too, are all still part of the Quad Cities. Everyone knows Bonnie Bush. She's a wonderful person, incredible athlete. She's not only done Arrowhead, she's done Badwater, the hot one in California. So she's fantastic. And I'm going to see her in about 10 days. We're doing the same race in Iowa in about 10 days. I'll get to that later. It's funny, I was talking to her about, before I actually interviewed her, we were talking about, being outdoors. And I said, it's funny, I do all these outdoor things, but I'm really not outdoorsy. I said, if I did, I want to go, do the Appalachian Trail, but I'd really rather get in a hotel every night, And she laughs that she's the exact same way. Neither one of us really want to sleep in a tent that badly. We want to shower in a nice bed. So it's a weird juxtaposition that I love being out on trails. I mean, I really, really love it. And I'll run all night on trails, but give me a bed. I don't want to really sleep in a tent where I want the air to be the temperature I want it to be and everything else. So it's kind of funny. We related on that. I was asking her, if I wanted to start with a tough winter trail race, and not tough, an easy winter trail race like Arrowhead, what to start with. And she said the Tuscobia 80, which is, I believe, in Wisconsin. It's only 80 miles, but it's also extremely cold. It's in December or something, or November, but it's way up there, and it's always minus something degrees. So a little part of me thinks about doing it, but here's the part that stops me is the logistics. You have to build a pulk or buy one, which is basically a sled that you're going to pull. And there's all the gear, which I have some gear, but I'm sure I'd have to spend hundreds on even better gear. I mean, you can't have just your regular old gloves, right? You got to have everything. And then just all the stuff you'd have to carry on it. I don't know. Plus, you'd never really run, I think. You'd walk the whole thing. That's kind of okay. The older I get, the more appealing that sounds, but just the logistics of it. But the idea of conquering one of those I like, but I don't know if I'll ever try it just because I'm not a good deep thinker when it comes to race day. I just like to go out and do it. And you can't do those winter races without thinking very well, or like we said, you could literally lose toes. You could die. Things can happen. So I don't know if I'll ever do one. If anyone has any tips kind of on a way to ease your way into it, maybe a little easier than even the Tuscobia 80, let me know. I mean, I know there are just winter races I've done one in Dubuque, Iowa called the Triple D, which I am thinking about again this year. It's always really cold in January in Iowa, but that's a 50K I've done. So, I've done a little tiny taste of it, but I think even that day I did that, it was not below zero. Maybe it was like 20 or something. I don't know, but who knows? Maybe someday. So after the Quad Cities Triathlon, the very same day, about 5 hours after I finished the triathlon, I did another race called the Microbrew 6K, kind of an odd distance, a 6K, and it's in Moline, Illinois, right across the river, one of the other Quad Cities. I told you that the Quad Cities Triathlon was very hot, and Bonnie was alluding to it. Well, it was incredibly hot by the time this started. The race started at 2:45 p.m. in the very peak heat of the day. It was well over 90. It was humid. The real feel, which was they call it now, was over 100 degrees. But not only did I run it, but my daughter ran it, my sister and her husband ran it. So that's what made it kind of fun. My sister has done this a few times and said it was fun. And there's a brew festival there, and the brew festival starts at like 5 p.m. So this is just before the festival. So the race itself was very flat. You did a 2-loop run on roads. And there was also a mile race at 2. I could have done the mile race at 2 and the 6K at 2:45. Some people did that, but I chose just to do the 6K. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to mention the Quad Cities Triathlon. We got a cotton shirt. Okay, when I say these things, I'm holding them up to the camera. So, as some of you know, I record these podcast episodes and I put them on YouTube at some point. So I got a cotton T-shirt for the Quad Cities Triathlon. I don't think you get a medal for the Quad Cities Triathlon. You just finish. For the microbrew, I got another cotton. I got so many T-shirts this summer, but I got another cotton T-shirt. It's green. Says microbrew, something on it. It says microbrew mile, like that's the big thing. That's funny. That's really what it says, a microbrew mile on it, even though I didn't do that. Got a nice bib for that one. So here's the bib, 378. Kind of a keeper bib. It's not very generic. Let's see. What was my time? Like I said, very hot. My time was 27:45 for 6K, which is a little over 3 miles, right? It's like 3.7 miles. 27:45. Hey, I was first of 8 in my age group. Not bad, especially since I had just done a triathlon 5 hours earlier. My age group was men 55 to 59. First of 8. And I was 23rd of 150 men. Not bad. 30th of 281 overall. And for winning, I got this little pint glass. I think we only got a pint glass if you podiumed. So I got a little pint glass. It says Microbrewing Company or something. Oh no, the Galena Brewing Company. Maybe they put it on. Microbrew Mile. It's funny they call it the Microbrew Mile. My daughter did it in 32:57. She was second of 10 in her age group. Yay! Age group 20 to 24. Second of 10. Pretty awesome. 20th of 131 women. Very good. My sister, 31:56, just a minute ahead of my daughter, was first of 4 in her age group, 60 to 64. My sister's an incredible athlete, by the way. She's really close to qualifying for the Boston Marathon. She can do it. She was first of 4, which is great. She was 15th of 131 women, and she's in the 60 to 64 age group. That's how good she is. And my brother-in-law, Larry, he had cramps. The poor guy was walking, but he still got 5th of 10 in his age group, 44:51. So that's pretty good. Halfway, even though the poor guy cramped and was walking part of it. The winners were John Mascari in 1930, so he beat me by 9 minutes, or 8 minutes, holy smokes. And Phil Young was second in 1951. I mentioned Phil Young. He's a friend of mine. He's the owner of Fleet Feet in Davenport, a running store. Go check it out. The women was won by Rebecca Wilder, 24-23. They did have free beer at the end, but I did not have any free beer. I'm not really a big beer drinker after a race, especially when it's really, I know some people say when it's really hot you want a beer, but that kind of makes me less want a beer. So that was a great day. Quad Cities Triathlon and a 6K in one day. That's another thing to try to do too. Find an afternoon or evening race and then try to do 2 races in one day. Pretty fun. You certainly earn your food after that. The only thing is between races, I had to still kind of eat light. I didn't want to totally pig out between races. Let's see. Let's continue on. On June 19th in Cincinnati, I just did a run on my own. So this is another fun thing to do. I think a lot of runners and cyclists have done this. And by on my own, I mean something kind of interesting other than just your own path. So I went to Cincinnati, and I was going to go to the Cincinnati Reds baseball game in the afternoon. My wife was doing PD, I think, professional development. She's a teacher, so she couldn't come. And so I was going to a Reds game, and like it was going to start at like 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever, probably 7. And I decided I'm going to do a run in Cincinnati and explore. I've lived in Ohio for 4 years, but haven't been to Cincinnati a million times. So I thought I'm going to explore. And between Cincinnati and Newport, Kentucky, which is right across the Ohio River, there are 4 bridges that you can cross by foot. I ran over all 4 bridges. So it was kind of a 4 bridges run. So I parked between the Reds and the Cincinnati Bengals football stadium, the 2 stadiums, the Reds baseball stadium, the Bengals football stadium. I parked between there where I normally would park to go to a Reds game. And I just took off running. I kind of had a path in mind. So I ran over 1 bridge and then into Kentucky, then back over to Cincinnati, then over to the 3rd bridge into Kentucky, then the 4th bridge back to Cincinnati. I actually ended up running over 2 more bridges, back to Kentucky, back to Cincinnati. I kept going back and forth. It was incredibly hot again in the 90s. I actually didn't have a very good run. I covered about 9 miles, and I had planned to do like a half marathon-ish. But I pooped out. And I was also going really slow because I was stopping and taking pictures, and some points I was kind of just walking and looking at stuff. But, and there's one bridge that's really cool. It's only a pedestrian bridge, and it's painted purple. It's pretty neat. And I also ran along the Cincinnati riverfront, which I encourage people to do. I encourage people to do this run. It's fun. You just kind of run around. On Newport, Kentucky side, they have an aquarium there, which everyone should go to at some point. But they also have this complex of stores and restaurants. It looks pretty nice over there. And on the Cincinnati side, you just got the general riverfront, which looks nice. It's a nice riverfront. There's some good views. You see some paddle boats go by and barges. There's some good architecture, some landmarks. They have signs about the history of Cincinnati. This is what happened at such and such point. Historical signs. They have this international park thing, which has flags from all over the world on it. They also have what I'd call a geologic time walk. You may have seen this somewhere where you walk and they have like a timeline on the sidewalk. So that, like the first one was 450 million years ago was the Ordovician period, and there was nothing but animals with shells running around the earth. And then you walk a little farther and it's 300 million years ago. Then, goes on and on. That's kind of fun. So I was walking on some of that. I need to go back there and just walk even more to look at all this stuff. But anyway, it was super hot. I ran 9 miles in about 1:45. Like I said, I really wanted to run longer, but wow, I was pooping. And then I went to a pizza place after that and ate, and then went to the baseball game. So that was fun. This summer, I also did some organized group rides. This is where usually you pay a moderate fee. You might get a shirt or something, and they have a pre-planned path with a few aid stations. I love these things. I love them. I can't get enough of these things. So I did one called the Buckeye Bridge Ride, and we got a tech shirt that is a really obnoxious pink color. I'm holding that to the camera. Buckeye Bridge Ride. And On the podcast notes, I'll put some pictures. I'll try to put pictures of all this stuff on the podcast notes eventually. That was June 23rd. I did that, and that was out of Eaton, Ohio, not too far away. And it's called the Buckeye Bridge Ride because you go through some bridges, like some covered bridges and stuff. They had 3 distances, 17, 32, and 45 miles. I did the 45-mile ride. It's just fun. That day was cool and overcast, and you go through these countrysides and quaint little towns, and there's always people around you. I'm a weirdo. I like to have people around me, but I don't like talking to them. I'll go out of my way I shouldn't say I go out of my way. I don't go out of my way to talk to someone. I'll ride the whole thing alone. I'm totally happy doing that. And if someone comes by, I will talk to them. I'm totally happy talking. Kind of totally happy for a short while. And we get to little aid stations. I talk to people, but I generally just like to do it by myself. But I do like having people around. It's kind of I don't know what that personality trait is when you're like that. But it was really fun. That was June 23rd. On July 1st, I did another one. Ride for TDRF. What is that? I knew what it was. I feel bad what TDRF is. I'm embarrassed. Anyway, that one was a 53-mile ride. It took me about 4 hours to do that. And it came out of Goshen, Ohio. This one's actually a little fuzzy in my brain, exactly what we did. But it was similar. We did another ride through the countryside. But it was also very nice, I remember. On July 4th, just 3 days later, I did the Vandalia Freedom Ride. This one was packed. It was like a few hundred people or something. It comes out of near Dayton, Ohio. We got a cotton T-shirt for that. Let's see, just a blue T-shirt. I know, let's see, it says Vandalia Freedom Bike Tour 2018. So these are often called tours. All right, there are tours that can be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and so forth. These are just 1 day tours I did. Again, it was really hot. It was in the 90s. I went 62 miles, which cyclists often call a metric century if you go 100K. It took me about 4 hours and 32 minutes. Well, that was my bike time. Probably took me 5 hours total if you add the stops. A lot of people, another covered bridge, went by old cemeteries, went through local parks. It was really nice. And this one had good food at the end. They had chicken from it wasn't Kentucky Fried Chicken, but something like that. Had green beans, biscuits, chocolate milk, cookies, and a little parfait thing. I think like from McDonald's or something. Man, it was delicious. I loaded up on food because you could even go back and get more. So I think at least some of the stuff you could. I think all of it. I went back and got a bunch of stuff. That was really great. So I love those bike rides. There's one more I did coming up. But I think they're a lot of fun. And it's just so good if you're a runner, to mix things up and work those bike legs and give the pounding of your feet and knees a little bit of a break. After that, in July, was our summer vacation. So last year, our summer vacation was California because I ran Western States. Part of it, I didn't finish. But that was also our summer vacation. So every year we go on one summer vacation and I try to add running to it. Basically, I just try to run in the morning while we're on vacation. So I'll go out by myself and run in the morning. This year, though, my daughter, who's taken up running, ran with me, which is very cool. So our vacation went to Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, and other places nearby. And we stayed at an Airbnb in Charlestown near Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. So this is just going east of us, 8-10 hours or something. Anyway, I'm going to go over my vacation a little bit because you might give you some ideas of something to do for a vacation. So on the first day, July 9th, we just ran around our neighborhood, the Airbnb. Not very interesting. Then we went to Baltimore. Never been to Baltimore. We went there for 1 day. Baltimore has a really impressive downtown. It's called the Inner Harbor. Boy, everyone should go. It is really, really nice. And one thing they have is like a gigantic aquarium, which we did not go to. I have to go back and go to this aquarium. It looks huge. It's like even 2 parts to it. Monster aquarium. It's called like the Nation's Aquarium or something. I don't know. But we didn't even get to that because we didn't really have the time. And it was like $40 a person. I had me, my wife, my daughter, and her boyfriend. I'm like, $160. I don't think so right today. So we didn't do it. I regretted a little bit not going. But they also have out the harbor these 5 historical military vessels. You can see all 5 for $18. So they're all military. 4 are ships and 1 is a submarine. So they have the sloop of war Constellation, the U.S. submarine Torsk, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Taney, and the light ship Chesapeake. If you don't know what those mean, I don't either. I mean, I didn't. But you can go all through the ship, and I got signs on the ships and everything. Really, really, really cool to look through. I really enjoyed it. And they also have this old lighthouse that used to be out in the harbor, out in the water. They brought that on. It's a special type of lighthouse. It's round, and well, they're all round, but it's got a funny shape to it. It's called the 7-foot Knoll Lighthouse. That was also included. So evidently it had been out in the shore for 130 years. So when they didn't need it anymore, they brought it and saved it. So that was neat. I also had my very first crab cake, which is evidently a Baltimore thing, at a place called Faidley's, F-A-I-D, Faidley's. And it's like, that's the place to go to get them, I guess. Really expensive. It was like $18 for this little thing about the size of a Hardee's biscuit. But it was really, really good. Okay. Crab cake. So I guess it was worth it just to say I had one. I kind of shared it with everyone else who wanted one. My daughter took a bite, I think, my wife. So there we go. Can say I had one. Then we went to an Orioles baseball game at Camden Yards, the famous Camden Yards. Because I like, if I go to some place that's got a famous ballpark, and if I can go to a game, I will. So we went there. Cool place. I just like going to baseball games. By the way, there's a statue of Babe Ruth there. And I didn't know why. I feel kind of stupid, but I didn't realize he grew up in Baltimore. I would have thought, you connect him with the New York Yankees. And I didn't know that. Then the statue is called Babe's Dream, and he's holding a bat or something, look up at the sky, and then he's got his hand holding a glove, not in a glove, but holding a glove. And I found out later the glove is the wrong hand. So when he played baseball, he was left-handed, so his glove would be in the right hand. But the glove on the statue is for the left hand. So they actually made a mistake in the statue. Whoopsie. But anyway, that's why his statue is there at the ballpark. But we actually only stayed for a few innings. It's like, I'm kind of odd. I go to baseball games. I don't care about the game very much. I didn't even know any of the players. I like to look at everything at the stadium. I look at all the statues, all the architecture of the stadium. I wander around the concourse 2 or 3 times looking at every little sign and everything. That's interesting because I'm interested. Like when I was a kid, baseball was my thing. I was really into baseball. And so all the historical stuff I know. I can't name it barely anyone playing baseball now, but I know all the old folks playing baseball. So I look at all that. And after about 3 innings, we're like, let's get out of here. I don't care. The Baltimores are lousy this year, I think, and they were playing another team that was lousy. So it was like 2 lousy teams playing each other. Anyway, that was that day. And the next day, July 10th, my daughter and I ran what's called Boulevard Heights / Schoolhouse Ridge North. This is at Harper's Ferry. Harper's Ferry is really a national park. It looks like a little city, but it's actually a national park, and it's got more acreage to it. And this is near the little city itself, is this place called Boulevard Heights and Schoolhouse Ridge North. And that's where some Civil War battle action happens. So you run around there and you'll see some signs and they got some like old cannons sitting there, which I'm sure they moved over there at some point. But I can't remember if there's any structures or not there. Maybe, maybe not. But some of the signs are kind of neat because you run and you kind of looking from one ridge to another, like a mile apart with a little valley in between. You realize actually these 2 sides were staring at each other from these 2 ridges, lobbing cannons and stuff at each other. So it's kind of neat. So you get views of the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Potomac River and the Shenandoah Valley all from as you're running around. Mainly kind of grass trails, a little bit of trail we ran through. So it was kind of neat. And you got a little Civil War history there. So we enjoyed that. That afternoon, we went to the Shenandoah National Park, my first time to the Shenandoah National Park, and we just hiked. which was great. Got everyone out hiking. And we went to one hike I would suggest is the Stony Man Summit. Go there because you end up at this rock outcropping thing. It's beautiful, beautiful. I mean, it's like picture heaven. You'll take like 50 pictures, and everyone stands on the rock, and you're looking down over this gigantic valley. Just beautiful backdrop for pictures. Really, really enjoyed that. And part of it, you're walking either on the Appalachian Trail or you cross it. I can't remember, one of the two, but you'll see the Appalachian Trail there. Also, that day we saw a whole bunch of bears. So on our hike, very close to the Stony Man Summit, we saw a mommy bear. Well, we saw only a mommy bear. We saw a big bear, like 50 yards off. And we kind of stood there and waited, and I talked loud, and it had no interest in us and moved away from the trail. But then we saw someone else who said that was a mommy bear and a baby. We didn't see the baby. But subsequently, when we were back in our car, we did see a mommy bear with 2 little baby bears. And then we saw like 2 other bears. So we saw a total of like 5 bears that day. So pretty neat. The black bears are everywhere there. And they don't care about people. They're really not interested. I think you'd have to work to be attacked by them. At this point, I'm thinking they're used to people. I mean, the park was crowded, and every time I saw a bear, well, not that first time, but when we were in the car and we saw one, there's all these people in cars all staring at the bears. So I think they're pretty used to people. Anyway, go in the summer to Shenandoah National Park. Beautiful place to hike, and you'll see some bears. July 11th, the next day we did not run, but we went to the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., which meant a ton of walking. Walked and walked and walked and walked, so I consider that my workout. If you're a zoo person like we are, my daughter is working at a zoo right now. You probably want to go to the National Zoo. I wouldn't say it's the greatest zoo ever, but it's a really, really good zoo. It's free. You have to pay like $25 to park, but still, for 4 people, $25, that doesn't seem too bad. And the big draw there are the great pandas. All right, so you get to see, there's only like 4 places in the States that have pandas. We've been to, I guess I've actually been to 3. San Diego, I think, has them. Memphis has them. The National Zoo has them. So my daughter's been to Memphis and the National Zoo. And then Atlanta, I think, has them. Which, by the way, my daughter and I are going to Atlanta this winter. I don't know if we'll get to the zoo or not. But definitely want to go to the National Zoo if you can, if you're really into that stuff. I think this is where we saw a baby gorilla too, Moki. It was really, really tiny. It couldn't even walk yet. Really tiny. I think that's where we saw Moki. So that was cool. And, I mean, baby gorillas and monkeys and all that stuff are awesome. Then we went to a place called Ben's Chili Bowl. So here's a tip, place to go eat. By the way, this was suggested to me by the great ultra runner Michael Wardian, who lives in the area. He was actually nice enough to respond to my message and say, hey, what should we do? And he said, go to Ben's Chili Bowl. So Ben's Chili Bowl is an institution not too far from the zoo, and they have chili stuff. So I had like a chili burger. It was actually a hamburger, and I think they put chili on it. I think that's how it worked. It was opened back in 1958 by Ben and Virginia. Ben passed away a few years ago, but Virginia is there working every day. One of these, old ladies who just won't stop working. We got a picture taken with her, which was cool. And it's one of these places where famous people go to. So all over the wall are celebrities and presidents and stuff like that who have been to Ben's Chili Bowl. So even if don't think you're going to be into the food, go for the history. Pretty cool little place. The next day, our second to last day, in the morning, this was the best, coolest run we did. So right across from the city of Harper's Ferry, across from either the Potomac or the Shenandoah River, I forget, because those 2 rivers meet at Harper's Ferry, so I kind of forget which is which. Right across from that is Maryland and a place called Maryland Heights, and we did the Maryland Heights Loop. So my daughter and I ran that in the morning. Fan-freaking-tastic. It was great. So you start by just running straight uphill, basically, for a few miles, a couple miles, and you get to the top, and there's an old fort up there, which is neat. Or the part of an old fort. I think they never truly finished it, but it's called the Old Stone Fort or something. There are kind of some views up there. They would be better, except there were like trees in the way. But you can look through the trees and see some great views up there. So you run up it, And then we ran down a different way. Parts of it are really technical. We couldn't even run, really, really super rocky. But most of it we could kind of run. And we came down a different way. A lady said there's a copperhead on the trail, but we never saw the copperhead. And what we were lucky is right before we were going to finish the loop, like a mile before, there's a spur that went off to the left. And I thought it was about a mile, so I said, let's take the spur. You never know. And we took this little spur. It was just an out and back. And at the end of it was an unbelievable view of Harper's Ferry. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful view. And another picture spot. If you're on this, again, this rocky area, ledge, and you're looking down at Harper's Ferry. You're looking down across the river and at Harper's Ferry on the other side. And we were there in the morning. The light was right. Beautiful. Got some great, great pictures. So if you do the Maryland Heights Trail, which I absolutely recommend, don't skip this little spur off to the side of it. Okay, it's on the way back down. Hopefully it'll be obvious if you look at a map what I'm talking about, but do it, all right? So I think the total we went up was like 1,550 feet up and 1,550 feet down. The whole loop was only 5.25 miles, including the little spur. So it wasn't really long, but it was either kind of straight up or straight down for a lot of it. And you could park right near it on this little road, this little parking spot area. So do that. If you remember one thing from my vacation, Maryland Heights Loop, do that. What did we do the rest of that day? July 12th. I forgot. It's escaping me. Oh, the rest of that day, I didn't write it down. That's the day we went to... Oh boy. I am forgetting. That's where we went to the Washington, D.C. proper itself. We went down to the National Mall area. So we went down there and we only going to be like 6 hours. So there was no way you can see it all in 6 hours. So remember, I was surprised we could park fairly close, fairly easily in a lot that wasn't like $1 million. It was like $20. I was kind of impressed with that because I thought, it's going to be a nightmare. But getting into it was not that bad. Maybe we were lucky. $20 parking, you walk over. You don't pay a dime for anything, really. We went to that's where they have all the Smithsonian museums. The only one we went into was Air and Space because I'm a science guy. And that was going to always be the easiest one to kind of wow people. And we kind of went through that. Even that, we probably only went through about 3/4 of it, and some we kind of walked by quickly. But still, even if you do that, I mean, there are full spaceships in there, people. There's rockets. It's amazing. There's airplanes. There's Wright Brothers plane. There's so much stuff. It's so freaking cool to go. Everyone's got to go see that at some point in their life. Just way too much to even try to remember everything that's in that. Really amazing. Weather balloons and all types of things in there. We went through that. We went up to the Washington Monument, looked at that. You can't go up it right now. It's under construction or whatever. We went to the Lincoln Monument. We got to that. You go by the World War II Monument or Memorial, going to that. I guess it's the Lincoln Memorial and Washington Monument. What's the difference between a monument and a memorial? I'm not sure. We also went to the Korean Memorial, which is off to the side a little because my dad was in the Korean War. And that's got a really neat set of statues of soldiers, and it looks like they're on patrol. It's kind of neat looking. We went to the MLK Memorial as well. And you're doing a lot of walking. These things are like from one end of the mall to the other is a couple of miles. So you're walking all over the place. And like the MLK one's off to the side somewhere else. So we did a whole bunch of walking there. And so it was, a lot of walking, great day. And you can just spend 5 or 6 hours and still see a lot of stuff. But obviously I'd love to go back and see many more of the museums and all that stuff. They did, right when we got there, they had a little, like a farmer's market type of thing. So one thing, and it was only this day, we were lucky. So we went back and got this pizza that they made in a little brick oven right there. Man, it was good. Delicious little personal pizzas. Freaking awesome. Anyway, that was the end of our vacation. So, at that evening, we went to Fredericksburg, Maryland, I guess, just north of the Washington, D.C. area, and we went to a play called Anything Goes. We love plays. We really, really love plays. Musicals are otherwise, and this is a comedy called Anything Goes. So we went and saw that, which was very good, very fun. The next day we went back home, but before that, my daughter and I did one more little run in Harper's Ferry. So we actually ran right next to Harper's Ferry is the river, one of the two rivers, and there were some trails along there. So I thought, let's just run around there. So we ran around there a little bit, and the Appalachian Trail goes right through Harper's Ferry. If you look down on the sidewalk, you'll see an AT symbol at some point, and they got a little outdoor store. So we also ran on the AT Trail part out of Harper's Ferry, up only about a half mile. It goes up to something called the Jefferson Rock. I mean, it keeps going. Maybe we ran a mile up on it, but it goes up to something called Jefferson Rock. It has some really cool views. And we went up to that, and we ran along these little trails along the river. So we did do that. And by luck, that day they were going to have like a Civil War camp reenactment. I don't mean war like fighting reenactment, like what a Civil War camp would look like with the little hospital and the store and stuff like that. So they were set up, and so we got to see some of that stuff, which is kind of neat to look at medical supplies that they had back in Civil War era or things people bought, things like that. Anyway, that's my vacation. Maybe I'll give you some ideas there. Everything we did, I recommend. It was freaking awesome. We did spend one day in Harper's Ferry. I may not have mentioned that. Well, we had a day actually in Harper's Ferry, going through Harper's Ferry. Oh, and on that day, we hiked on the C&O Canal as well, which is in Maryland, and that's part of the Appalachian Trail. And there are races on there. There's like a 100-mile race on it. On there, actually, Michael Warding just ran the whole C&O Canal, which is a flat gravel path along the river. He just ran the whole thing and set an FKT, like 135 miles of this thing. I don't know what he did it in, but like a new FKT he just did. Speaking of Michael Wardian. So I forgot. One of the days that was in there as well. Okay. What else have I done? I'm up to the end of July now. I am a cross-country coach at a high school in Ohio. And they put on a fundraiser at the end of July every year to raise money for the cross-country teams, girls and boys, called the Racin' and Mason 5K. So I ran it, even though I'm one of the coaches. The Boosters Club puts it on, so we didn't even have to help put it on. Got a cotton T-shirt for that. Let's see. It's blue. It says Racin' and Mason 2018. Racin' and Mason. Cotton T-shirt. Very nice day. For once, it wasn't 1,000,000 degrees. A little bit of hilly. There's some tiny hills in the race. It's all on sidewalks and bike paths. Let's see. It took me 21:47 to finish. I was second to 14 in my age group, 50 to 59. I ran this 2 years ago. I think I was also second. 2 years ago, I did it in 22:23. So it's faster. I was like a half minute faster than I was 2 years ago. That makes me feel good. The winner was Tom McElhenney. In my age group, 21 flat. That was a winner in my age group. I was 47 seconds behind the winner in my age group. I got a little medal, a little tiny medal, because I know I have the same medal. I think I came in second last time, so I have the same little medal, little baby medal. It just says Summer Classic 5K Division winner. There you go. Got a little medal. By the way, for our cross-country team, you have to qualify to be on the team. You have to run a certain speed. And there's different ways you could qualify. One way is to run this race in a certain time. I'm forgetting what they had to run it in, maybe 23 minutes. So I joked that I did qualify for the team. So I was fast enough to be on the cross-country team, just barely. A lot of the cross-country kids run it so they can qualify, and a whole bunch of them beat me, but I did beat a few of them. The winner was Abel Nijakowski, who was a cross-country runner last year for the team. I coach. I'm an assistant coach for our team. He's just 18 now. He ran it in 16:36. He was our best runner last year. He's not Bowling Green, Kentucky, running for that college. The female winner was Nicole Steinbicker. She's 22. Her time was 18:40. Very nice. Beat me by 3 minutes. After this, I did 2 days of RAGBRAI. Let me quickly explain RAGBRAI. It's another bike tour, but it's 7 days long in Iowa. It traverses Iowa from west to east, from the Missouri River on the west coast. You go east through Iowa, you finish at the Mississippi River. 7 days, okay? So each day is a stage. So you ride for a certain distance and you stop and spend the night and do that 7 straight days. It's called the RAGBRAI. That stands for the Register's Annual Great Bike Ride. What's the A? I'm an idiot. What's the A? A, Iowa. I want to say over Iowa, whatever. Okay, and the reason it starts with Register is because it's promoted by the Des Moines Register newspaper. Register's Annual Great Bike Ride, AI. What the heck? Anyway, it's been going since the early 70s. Any cyclist in America who does any type of touring at all, in other words, does 1 day or multi-day rides, every single one knows about this. It is like it might be the original multi-day ride in the United States, one of the originals. It's very, very famous. And it's 7 days, always at the end of July. It's always extremely hot. And it is a big party. That's all it is. So you start in one town, and you go to the next town, and along the way, in the countryside, there will be food booths, or food stations, not stations, but people selling food. Okay, you have to buy everything. People selling food, and then every little town you go through is having a festival basically around the bike ride. So you go through, and you have to get off your bike because it's so crowded. Many thousands of people do this. 20,000 or 30,000 people do this ride. It's huge. And yet you go through, and they're selling every possible thing of food you can imagine. There's nothing not being sold food-wise, or you can eat in the restaurants. When you get to the destination town for that day, you can camp there. They always have campsites spread out all over the town for people to camp, or you can get a hotel, or people open their homes and let you either camp in their yard sometimes, which at least you can go and use their restroom, or you can even sleep in their homes sometimes. This is like my 4th time doing it. I've never done all 7 days. I have no desire to do it all 7 days. That's a lot of heat, and every day's a little bit similar. I get the gist of it just doing 2 or 3 days. So a number of times I've done 3 days. This time I did just 2. The route changes every year, by the way. Sometimes I go through northern Iowa, sometimes the middle, sometimes the south. It's way more hilly than you think it is. Iowa is rolling hills, so it can be quite hilly to go through. So anyway, the first day we went from Sigourney, Iowa to Iowa City. I did the last 2 days of it, so I did not do the first 5 days. And I'll tell you why I did the last 2 days, because I did day 6, which went from Sigourney, Iowa, a small town, to Iowa City, Iowa. Iowa City, again, is where my daughter lives, so that's why I decided to do it this year, because I'm in home territory. That was like 58 miles. My wife dropped me off in Sigourney, and then she picked me up in Iowa City. Again, a little bit more about the ride. You see folks dressed up in all types of things. I mean, they're wearing weird helmets. They got bones hanging off the top of their helmet, because they're like they look like Flintstone outfits or something. People wearing everything, tutus, you name it, they're wearing it. Not only that, but not everyone's riding a bike. I saw people on unicycles. I always see people on unicycles. Penny farthings, those things, the things with the gigantic back wheel and the little tiny, tiny front wheel, ellipticos, and rollerblades. I saw all of them this summer, and I see all of them every summer, which is amazing, doing some of those things up a hill, all right, including recumbent bikes, of course. And sometimes you'll see these they look like little spaceships. It's a recumbent bike, but they have a whole little housing around it. You'll see those too. Those people can go fast. So again, every town's got food, it's got music going on, entertainment going on. There's other things. At one point in day 1, I went through by a little farm, and they had a little petting zoo. So I got to pick up a little baby lamb and a little baby goat and a little baby pig. Got my picture taken with all those little things, which is fun. Some of the food stops are like institutions, like Chris Cakes. That's a pancake place. And you watch them, they can make like 100 pancakes in a few minutes. It's real fun to watch. They have this like automated way of doing it. Tom's Turkey Legs. Okay, you go get a big turkey leg. He's there every year with turkey legs. Certain smoothie places that are there every year. All different types of things. There's beer everywhere if you want to get beer in the towns. And some people drink a lot of beer. I don't drink beer while I'm doing it. I'd probably throw up. The overnight towns, along with all the accommodations, they'll usually have a concert. I saw Cheap Trick. No, I didn't see Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick was at one time, but I saw Styx. Actually, it wasn't even Styx. It was Dennis DeYoung of Styx. There's a lot of old classic rockers, country stuff, and stuff like that. But I've seen some good concerts in the evenings at the overnight towns. There's a lot of groups that come, and a lot of them have school buses, old refurbished school buses, and they might even put their bikes on the top of the school bus. They fit the bike so you can fit the top so you can put bikes on top, and they'll paint the school bus and they give them funny names like, we're the pig riders or something, and it's painted pink with pig, looks like a pig or something, whatever, all types of crazy stuff. So you'll see the school buses all over the place in the town or going by you as you're riding or whatever. Well, actually not really going by you. Most of the roads are closed, just to cyclists. But, you'll see them in every town you go by, all these refurbished school buses, and they're really fun to look at as well. So my wife picked me up in Iowa City after the first day I did it, and we just stayed at my sister's that night in Davenport. And then on the last day of RAGBRAI, I did it again. My wife took me back to Iowa City, and we rode to Davenport because it finished in Davenport this year, which again is my hometown. So that I forget how many miles that one was, maybe 60 miles. Along the way, you'll see friends, which is fun too if you're from the area. So I saw an old friend of mine, Gary, talked to him. I saw him at a place called Beekman's Ice Cream, another institution. So Beekman's Ice Cream, it's always every day there'll be one stop that's Beekman's, and they make their own ice cream right on the spot. It's so fun. They got these tiny little engines that are stirring up the ice cream in these big wooden bucket things, all right? And so I really love the sound of it. So I actually recorded the sound of it because it's very soothing to me. So let's listen to what I say here. Okay, I am on my second day of doing RAGBRAI between Iowa City and Davenport. And I've stopped at one of the famous in-between town stops, Beekman's Ice Cream. There are probably a couple of hundred people here on this lawn. It's at someone's farm, so Beekman just found a nice person who has a farm and let Beekman's use their yard. And like I said, probably a couple hundred people sitting here eating ice cream. There's about 100 people in the line waiting to get ice cream. But the cool part is the little engines they use to make the ice cream. They make it right on the spot. They don't bring it from anywhere, and they make it in these buckets. And you can watch the little engines go round and round, and it's churning the ice cream. And not only is it fun to watch, but my favorite part is the sound of it, which you can probably hear behind me. So I'll get up a little closer. I think it's just one of the most satisfying sounds in the world. These little engines, there's about 5 of them going. Okay, there you go. I love the little putt-putt sound. Maybe you don't, but I think it sounds great. So anyway, that was 2 days of RAGBRAI. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm sure I will do it some more. Will I ever do 7 days? I don't know. Because usually I camp. Like this time, like my wife and I have went both together. There's always a logistical issue of how you get to the start and then someone's got to pick you up at the end type of thing. You have to work that out. But my wife and I have went a few times, and we camp overnight each time. And RAGBRAI will carry your camping gear from town to town on a big, gigantic semi. And I mean, you're sleeping in your sweat, basically. And there's always one night where there's tornado warnings for some reason. So that's just a lot of heat, a lot of sleeping in your sweat. The towns do have showers. You can go, they'll have like a big semi that you go inside. There's showers inside it. And also, like, the churches are having spaghetti dinners. It is so much fun. So freaking much fun. Everybody should do it. Even if you just do one day. You'll just doing one day, you'll get the idea. That's all you need to do. But if you do multiple days, that's fun too. All right, so that was the end of July. I didn't do anything until the end of August. And remember, in August, I did the dog days of August. I did a podcast every single day. So I've already talked about a couple of these things. On Friday, August 25th, I did the Steel City Half-Day Fat Ass Run, ass being spelled A-Z-Z. And that was here in Middletown where I live. They had a 12-hour race, thus half day, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I've already talked about this. And all I did was walk for 4 hours. I wanted to practice my fast hiking. So I walked from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I walked like as fast as I could, almost, for 4 straight hours. I actually found that difficult. I covered 14.8 miles. I wanted to cover 16. I was hoping to go 4 miles per hour, and I actually didn't make it, showing how hard walking can be. I couldn't even walk 4 miles per hour for 4 hours. Now, keep in mind, you're stopping to go to the bathroom, you're stopping at aid stations, but that has to be taken into account. I still wanted to cover 16 miles and didn't make it. So I did talk about this on that evening's Dog Day podcast. It's like a 20-minute show that I did. I talked about that, and my friend Brad, who won it, he ran 56 miles over the 12 hours. The very next morning, and this is partly why I didn't do the whole 12 hours, although I don't think I was going to anyway. The very next morning at like 8 in the morning, I did another little triathlon here in Middletown. It was a practice triathlon, and I've already talked about this as well. So there's some people here who want to put on a real triathlon. This year, they just invited some local folks to practice it, and I was one of those invited. It was called the Great Miami Sprint Triathlon. They did actually make shirts, though. Got a tech shirt for it. It only costs like $10, $15. I don't know. Did I even spend anything? Maybe it was free. I don't know. It wasn't much. So we actually did the swim in a pool, which I've never done before for a triathlon. They had everyone just lined up, and you jumped in. And like every 10 seconds. So they took that into account at the end. And you swim up and down the pool. So you swim up one lane, down another lane, up another lane, down another lane until you covered 400 yards. Then again, a 15-mile bike, almost completely flat, and a 5K run, almost completely flat. This was all on the bike path. I think if they do it again in the future, they maybe want to move the bike and the run into the city itself on the roads. Anyway, I did it in 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 38 seconds. I don't think I had the time before. And I was 5th out of 16, so you can see only 16 of us did it. They also had a little kids version as well. I was 5th out of 16. My friend Aaron Shearer won it in 1:04:05. The first woman was someone named Hannah. They only had handwritten results. I don't know what Hannah's last name was, but she was 1:42 flat. And someone named Mary Catherine was just 5 seconds behind her. Very close. Anyway, that was fun. It was just a practice thing for them. 1 hour and 23 minutes of going all out. I enjoyed that very much. And we're almost to the end, folks. The only thing I've done since then, almost the only thing I've done, is cyclocross. So every fall, I'd like to do cyclocross. I did have a year or two where I did barely any. In fact, last year I did only one. Because I don't usually do fall ultra running races. I don't usually do very many. And there's a reason I did last year, and there's a reason I did this year. Though that's not normal. Hopefully I'll get back eventually to not doing so much ultra running in the fall. That's not when I really want to do it. So I only did one last year. This year I'll probably get 3 in. So I did one. Well, first of all, I did these Wednesday night practice races. I talked about that in the dog days in August as well. This was near Mason, Ohio. It was really fun because they just put up a practice course. And they were only $10. They weren't sanctioned or anything. And we just rode. So again, a quick description of cyclocross. The only way for you to really understand it is to find one and go watch. Cyclocross, otherwise called CX sometimes. They're a blast. They set it up in a park, and they make a course, and you have to kind of see how they make it, and you just go all out. The course is usually maybe 2 miles long, and you go round and round and round and round, and whoever completes the most laps wins. Or if two people complete the same number of laps, whoever got there first wins. And it's usually timed, so you go for 30 minutes, and there's categories. I'm in the lowest category, the slowest, but they have category 5 that I'm in, all the way up to category 1, and then elites, and then pros, or whatever. They have all these categories. And you are basically, you're on a bike that's called a cyclocross bike. It's kind of between a road bike and a mountain bike. And they're very light because you may have to pick it up and carry it because they have barriers. They will actually put wooden barriers in it. You have to get off your bike and carry it over a barrier or up a hill that you cannot bike up. Now, the elites sometimes can bike up these hills, but most of us can't. All right, so we pick our bike up and run up a hill. Or there's so much mud that sometimes you're better off just carrying your bike through the mud. And they'll have sand pits. They have all types of things. It's really a blast. So purposely make you go up and down every little hill they can. It's a lot of fun to do. Again, go watch one if you can. So besides those Wednesday night practices, I think I did 4 of those in August. I did 2 actual races. The first was September 9th, called Harper Park Cyclocross in Fairfield, Ohio, just south of me. Again, I did category 5. And category 5 people go 30 minutes. The better people may go longer, 45 minutes or even an hour maybe. Category 5 are not supposed to be very good. I went 30 minutes. It was ridiculously muddy. It had poured the days before, so it was nothing but a sloppy mud fest. That's one of the great things about cyclocross. It's like you're a little kid. You get this excuse to play in the mud. And mountain biking scares me because you're in these tight trails and you can get knocked over and hit a tree and all this stuff. Cyclocross is not so bad. It's wider, and if you fall, you usually just fall on grass or in the mud. Seems a lot safer to me and in that sense. So you're just going around the mud. It was so hard trying to bike through the mud, but it's a blast. You end up a muddy mess at the end of some of these things, which I did end up a muddy mess in this one, but I did get in 3 loops. I don't even know how I placed. I'm sure usually like in my category, there'll be like 40 guys, and maybe I'll beat like 5 or 10, because I don't practice this. I don't get out and ride my bike much and practice it. My practice is showing up and doing the race for the most part. But it was a blast. And then I did one other one on September 30th, just about 10 days ago, down in Milford, Ohio, which is close to Cincinnati. It's called the Valley View Nature Preserve. And that one was dry, which is weird almost. It's so rarely dry, but it was actually pretty darn dry. And I got in 4 laps, probably partly because it was dry. And it had some fun obstacles too. You went around this barn. Again, you can't describe these things very well. You have to see. You had to go up this little hill around a barn. They'll just come up with any weird little path to make you go through things. But it was fun as well. And at that race, the owner of the nearby bike store who does cyclocross, he set up a little awning there. And we have kind of a little bike club now. It's called the Optimist. I'm a member of it, and we just have our own little jerseys that we wear and stuff like that. And he made everyone a little face on a stick, which I'm holding up next to my head right now for the camera. So if I had someone there like my wife to cheer me on, she could have waved it, but nobody was there. But in the future, if someone wants to cheer me on with my big head on a stick, it's got a bicycle helmet on my head. There's a little thing for me now. It's really super cool. I love it. And only one more thing that I did, and that is just a few days ago, I did another bike ride. This one didn't cost anything. It was free, but it was organized by Spoken Bicycles, by my friend Otto, who owns the store, the one who I just spoke of, who made me the face on a stick. We rode from Spoken Bicycles of Middletown, here in town, down to Taft's Ale House in Cincinnati. It was about a 55-mile ride. It's actually my first time on a road bike in like a month, but what the heck, I jumped in. It was free, so we just rode down there. And Taft's Ale House actually met us twice. within a van, gave us some water if we needed to. Still very warm, high 80s, which is pretty amazing for October. And in Cincinnati, if anybody knows Cincinnati, it's a really, really hilly city. So all of the climbs came at the end. And we went through Eden Park. If you know Cincinnati, you know that is way up there. So here we are like 50 miles in, and we're going way climbing up into this park, which meant it was kind of nice. We cruised the last few miles down into downtown Cincinnati to the Ale House. They actually gave the first number of people who signed up got a $10 gift card. And when I was there, I had a nice meal, like a barbecue cheddar sandwich, barbecue beef cheddar sandwich, and I had a beer because they make beer. So it was great. It was a very, very fun day. My wife came and picked me up and took me back. So you did have to get your own way back, but really enjoyed it. If I was stronger and not really in running mode right now, I probably would have rode my bike back, but I wasn't interested in that. I was tired enough from doing that, but it was really fun. And that's it. So I am now back into just running mode. For them, I'll do one more cross race, I think in December. But otherwise, I'm back into running mode again a little earlier than normal because I'll let you know why. Actually, first, let me tell you what my next podcast, so my next episode, I've still got two bigger races I did that I did not cover in here. One was a half Ironman distance triathlon called the Lake Logan Half in North Carolina. I will cover that, and I have a long interview with someone for that one. And I also did a 50K race up near Toledo, Ohio called the Oak Opening Stampede 50K. And I have an interview with a couple for that one. So those, I don't know if I'll do those in one episode or split it up yet. But I need to do those 2 episodes or 1 episode to cover those. And that's more my traditional race review. I will do that. Again, one's a triathlon, one's an ultra. After that, I'll be all caught up. But I got a bunch of races coming up. Like I said, I normally don't race this much in the fall, but I am this season again. So I don't have these dates aren't spot on. These are rough dates. So October 19th, roughly, I'll be at the Mines of Spain 100K in Iowa. I'm telling you this because if you're going to one of these races, come up and say hi if you can figure out who I am, and maybe I'll interview you after the race or something. So the Mines of Spain 100K in Iowa, which I'm telling you right now, if you think Iowa's flat, not only are you wrong, but this is the hilliest part of Iowa. This is going to be a hilly race. There's also a 100-mile version. I'm only doing the 100K. Around October 27th, the next weekend, I'm doing the Stone Steps 50K in Cincinnati. Very famous local race. Very hilly. Stone steps because there's a big, long set of stone steps that you go up during the race. It's at Mount Airy Park in Cincinnati, which is nothing but a mountain in Cincinnati. I'm joking. It's like a little mountain, little baby mountain. That'll be October 27th. November 11th, I'm doing the Tunnel Hill 100 mile again. I did that last year. Doing that again. And then I'm doing the Chattanooga 50 mile on December 2nd. So if you're doing any of those 4 races, come up and say hi if you can, or send me an email, kemsmith1@gmail.com. Say, I'm doing one of those, and maybe we'll meet up with each other or whatever. We can at least chat about that. We're doing it. Who knows? Maybe I'll see you after the race and can interview you or something. And that's all I have for today, folks. Thank you very much for listening. I'm not sure if it was remotely interesting. Probably not. You probably skipped it. I wouldn't blame you if you did. Basically, it's me talking about myself, about as narcissistic as you can possibly get. But I don't know. I thought it was some interesting stuff to go over. And that's all I have. So remember, this will be put on YouTube at some point. It may take me a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 2 months. I don't know before it gets up on YouTube. But it will. I eventually will have pictures of a lot of this stuff on the website at runsmith.net. And the YouTube, I put some of the pictures within the YouTube video as well. YouTube is just there for people who don't do podcasts. So again, go to runsmith.net to get more info about me. Email me at kemsmith1@gmail.com. I'm a coach, so if you want to contact me about coaching, please do. Otherwise, that's it. This is Runsmith Enterprises presenting topics in endurance sports. Signing out. Have a fun workout.